Okay. So if I do this, I say to do item and okay. Sorry, let me remove this. Now, all I'm doing is I'm collecting the value entered here, which and how am I getting the value? Remember that I created a variable and did document the query selector. This is the query selector because I gave it this name to do item in my HTML. So the value of that item is what I'm collecting, and I'm saving it to this variable called to do item. That is all I'm doing. Now, after doing that, I'm telling the phone when it submits, do this. Collect the value here, save it to this element. Once you save it to this element, then create another div. You know how we create div? Create another div that will serve as the big container or say the grandparents. Then create another div that will now become the parents. Then inside that div that you created, give it a class name called to do description on this line. Then create another paragraph inside this div, inside the to do div. Create a paragraph. Now the content of that paragraph will now be whatever I'm getting here, which is this to do item. So let me remove this, which is this to do item. So this to do item that I save this variable in now becomes the content, the inner text of my paragraph. Remember, I have a paragraph. This thing, what it just forms is it just forms a P element like this. So I'm saying that inside this P elements, my inner text should be whatever value I collect from this, whatever this value, this thing I saved there, this value I saved there, which I stored in to do item. Then when you do that, all we now need to do is append that paragraph to its parent, which is this div. Then append that div now to his own grandparent, which is this. Just forget about this line for now. Then after that, append the whole to do div to the main container, which is what we have here. This is the main container, to do container, which we got from here. This is the main to do container. So whatever we're doing, remember it has other elements inside. So we are saying underneath this form our own and append it to this guy. So it will append it as the next sibling, as the next child. This is the first sibling, the second sibling, and I'll all be appended as the third child. This is the first child, third child, third child. So is that clear to this point, please?
So, yes, it's clear, sir, but I have a question to ask.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, based on this appending child to parents, if you create a div with JavaScript,
okay,
now you want to append it to the HTML. Now, the way you want to append it already have two children.
Okay.
Then you want to append this one now as the first child or the second child. How do you do it?
Okay, that's
without appending it as the third, since you already have three.
Okay, I understand what you mean. I think there's an append first child. Let me see. Honestly, but I know, yeah, I understand what you mean. Let me see. There is an append. There is an append first child. I know JavaScript provides us with everything. Append. Let me see. Append. That's if you want to specify a particular location to append it to. Append.
Yes.
Append child. There's an append child, append sibling. There are so many of them. I just okay. I'll give you an answer on that. Just let me check. But it's possible. It's very very doable. You can do it. And you can append to anywhere you want to append to. Append to anywhere you want to append to. I will before we finish. I will give you an answer on that. Okay. So
okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Uzi, are you fully? Did you follow us to this point? Hello, is on this call? Okay. I thought David was here. Okay, so let me just continue. Maybe their network or something. All right. So having said that, now if we can enter so many things. We can enter talk, anything we want to enter, and we just keep having it like that. Anything we want to enter, we'll keep having it like that. But see what now happens. Once I come, now you can say that you successfully created a to-do application. You can enter something and get it displayed. But the challenge is, I think I've remembered that enter next sibling. Let me see. Enter next sibling. I know there's an enter next sibling. Enter next append next sibling, sorry. Then next sibling. Then you append it to so we have to, I think we have to grab, let's say we want to append, let me append next sibling. Okay, let me use this H1 first. Let me use this H1 first. You have to now call this H1. Let's give it a class. Say, how do we call it? H1. Okay, no, let's say header or heading. Heading, yes. Right, I just remember that is an append next sibling. So let me see how that works. Just something I just want to see. I call it say this heading. So we succeeded in grabbing that heading. So I think we can do heading. That will do NS sibling. Let me see. I think so. Okay, that didn't work. That did not work. There's something we're not getting right. NS child, not NS child. It's an error. Complete type error. Heading dot append next sibling is not a function. Okay, they said it's not a function. Yeah, then I'll check on it. We'll get it as before we finish. We'll get it. Know that it's the word, but is you can append anyway. But the default is you append it as the last child in the container, but you can append anywhere. Let's continue. I will check on it. All right. So now we've done this where we enter and we get it displayed. What is it? Where is it? Okay, I think there is something else. Line 40. Oh, it's still here. Just come in. Okay, so this is where we were and we've done to this point. I just want to make sure everybody understands this point, please, because from here it gets a little bit complex. But if you understand this, to be easy. Please, if you don't understand, I'm only getting response from Felix, Suka, Uzi. I'm not getting any response from you. I wish David was also saying something so that I'm sure we understand it to this point. Suka, Uzi, are you with us?
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, sir. My network was a bit funny, so I just logged back in. So I'm still trying to catch up with the code.
Okay. So do you understand it to this point where we were doing it from last week?
Okay. Yes, I do.
Okay, you do. Okay, that's fine. All right, so we want to continue from here. Now, see the challenge in doing it this way. Now, you can finish this and we say that, okay, we build our app is working. When we enter anything to do, we'll see. But remember, it's the to-do list we are building. Let's say you finish writing the to-do today. You write a to-do for the week or even for a day. You want to go back and check the to-do that you wrote. See what happens once I refresh my browser. If I refresh my browser, it disappears. I can't find it anymore. So I have to start entering it again. So this is how you, basically what we've done is how you enter a value and see it displayed immediately. How you enter a value and see it displayed immediately. But there's a reason why it's not done this way. The best way you do it is to store it in, is to put it in a format by which these things can be stored somewhere. And when they are stored somewhere, they can be reused. For example, now that is where local storage comes in. There's something in your computer. Your computer has the browser comes with some storage APIs. The browser provides us with some storage APIs. There is session storage, there is local storage. But I want us to look at local storage today. Local storage is simply storing it somewhere in your system such that when you need it, you can always call it from there and use it to do whatever you want to use it for. For example, the ideal thing would have been that after entering this to do, there's a place we store it called a database system. So that after 1 year, you want to call it, you can go back there and retrieve it from there. And that part is, you remember I told you how back-end interacts with front-end using an API. So we're going to be looking at one API today. It's an API that is provided by JavaScript called local storage. What that API simply does is, because we don't have a back-end database to store this thing, we want to store it somewhere such that when we refresh, whenever we refresh our browser, it doesn't disappear. We can now call it from there and use it to do whatever we want to use it for. Okay. So now, if you check my code, if you check this code, what I'm basically doing is I have done to this point, I've created it, I've appended this my to-do item. Remember my to-do item, did I get it? I got my to-do item from here. The value I got here, saved it here, and that's from my to-do item. Now, after entering it from there, apart from appending it, I want to now save it somewhere. And that is where local storage comes in. Now, it does two things. You can store, you can retrieve, and you can delete. Now, how does it work? Let me show you how it works. After entering my online 27, after getting, I can write it anywhere, but the most important thing is, you have to write it where you're calling the variable. Or let's do it this way. Let me cut it from here and put it here. This is where it's supposed to come in. Now, all you simply need to do is to call local storage. Then the local storage now has a method called set item. Local storage has a method called set item. This is how it's written. Local storage. We have local storage dot set item. We have another one called local storage dot get item. Get item is a method. Then we'll have another one called local storage dot remove item. This one deletes the item from your local storage. Take your local storage as your local database on your computer, like a local backend built by JavaScript to help you save information. For now, just assume it is that. Now we have set item, get item, and remove item. Now let's see how the three of them work. The set items saves it. The method helps you to save whatever thing you want to save to the database. I'm calling it a database now because it's a storage system provided for us by JavaScript. While the get item helps you to retrieve from that database, the remove item helps you to remove the item from the database. All right. So now we'll be working with save, because what we want to do is that whenever we click on submit and we collect the value of our variable, before we do anything, even before we go ahead and start doing anything, yeah, it can even come. So let it even come here. But anyway, I put it, it's fine. But ideally, it's not supposed to come here. I will tell you why. Okay. Now let me drop it here. So immediately we've gotten this item. Remember, this is the value of this, what we are saving, this to do item dot value. Remember, we call this our input to do item. That is what we called it when we gave it a name. We called it to do item. Now, this is our to do item dot value. We now want to store it in a local storage. So the way you call local storage, just enter local storage dot set item. And when you do that, it takes in two parameters. One is the key. The key is like, as the name implies, key is key to a door. Now, it's a key, and the other one is what you want to store. The first one, you can see how Visual Studio Code helps me here. Local item, the first one is a key, which is always a string, and the next one is the value of what you want to store. So what you do is you just say the key, what I want to store. You can call it any name, but I want to call it to-dos. All my to-dos. Then comma. Then what do I want to store? I want to store this to-do item. Just go with me. I want to store this to-do item. So what I've simply done is I have stored it in my local storage. The other processes will continue, but at this point, the reason why I told you that it cannot come before line 11 because you've not declared the variable. You have to declare it first before using it. So after declaring it, so you can put it anywhere below line 11. You understand? All right. So let's now see what we'll get when we do that. All right. So let me enter sleep. So now how do you know it has been stored? Well, if you want to inspect it, this is what you do. You click on inspect. I told you it's provided by JavaScript in your browser. So what you do is you click on application. Once you click on application, you will see local storage. So click on that local storage. Click on local storage, you get the item. Let me just move these ones. And refresh. We'll do it again. Okay, so let me enter something. I enter it. Why is it taking time? Sorry. Enter it. Why is my it not displaying? Let's check. Is this something I'm not doing right? There's an error being showed in the console. Type error, current properties. No, reading description. Okay, sorry. I see have this description somewhere on line 8. Line 8. Line 8. Move this. Okay, so everything is working now. So let's go and inspect it in our local storage again. Okay, if you check well, see, you have something here to do. Forget this one. These ones are from my browser. Just forget this one. But see the one I'm looking at. You remember I said the name is to do, and I stored something. So let's inspect it. See the name I gave it to do, and what I stored is the value that was entered here, which is this it. Can you see it? Is it clear?
Yes, it's clear, sir.
All right. So this is how local storage works. So if I enter something else, let me say run. See, it changes to run. So what I'm simply doing here, I'm storing it in my local storage. I'm storing it in my local storage. Now, okay, so I'm storing it in my local storage. The reason why I'm storing it here is so that I can reuse it. After storing it here, I can now reuse it to do whatever I want to do. Okay, all right. So let's try and see how to reuse it. Now, some of these things I commented that I did them before, but I just wanted to, I want us to move slowly so that we understand why we do certain things. Now, I've done it here. So in order to
Hello, sir.
yeah.
Please, I have a question.
Okay.
On this local storage,
Yes.
when you click on when you put it and you click
Yes.
on it, it was stored as
Yes.
a local storage value.
Yes.
Then when you put run, we didn't see it again. It was run that
Yeah. Now that was where I was heading to. The thing now is that the run displays, yeah. Your network is breaking. Hello, your network is
because
breaking.
the E that was there is no longer there. It's only run.
Yeah. Yes. Can you hear me? Let me answer your question. Now, that was where we're heading to.
Okay.
Now we've entered it, we're seeing it, so we entered run. The next value we entered over overwrite the previous one that was there. But that is not what we want. We want it such that everything will be stored there. Because if I still refresh, want it such that everything will be stored there. Because if I grab the value of this local storage now and I try to display it, the only thing that will be displayed is run, because the only value it has saved is run. Let's see it. Let's see what happens here. Let me say, now in order to grab the value I stored in my local storage, let me just go ahead and treat that one. I now use get local storage.get item. Local storage.get item. Now this local storage.get item works with only one parameter, which is the key. Remember the key we used, which is to-dos. So I have to enter the same key here, call it to-dos. So it will now get whatever is stored in my local storage, but I also have to equate it to something. Store it in a variable. Whatever I have, I can call it stored. Felix, I know your question. That's where I'm heading to. Stored to-dos equal to. So this is what. So this is the value. This is how I get value from my local storage. So remember that after getting this value, it's possible for me to still use that value and display here. Now let's console log the value first. Let's console console.log. There we say stored to-dos. Stored to-dos. So what we're simply doing right now is what we're supposed to get when we refresh our browser, we're supposed to get this console.log. What was stored there, we'll get it. So let's go ahead and see. We'll refresh our browser. This one will disappear, of course, because it's not loading from anywhere. It's loading directly when you enter it. So if I go to my console, see I have my run here. So if I want what is in my local storage to always display, if I come back here and now say, remember I have this stored to-dos, and I come and say, instead of equating this my to-do item to this, I want to call this my inner HTML. Okay, no, let me not do that so I don't confuse us. So I have what I stored in my to-do here, but as Felix rightly mentioned, he said, let me see, enter another thing, say jump. All right, so we're looking at so we said, to answer that question, that whenever we enter a new value, it overrides what we have in our local storage. Now, these are to-do lists that we are creating. The ideal thing would have been, as we enter values, it is saved somewhere. As we enter them, it is saved somewhere. Then after everything, we get everything we've entered instead of just having one override one. That would be the ideal thing to do. Now, let me ask, what method does JavaScript provide, or what let me put it this way, or what data type enables us to store different things with one variable name? Guys, when we do things like, we have to now think, okay, what method can I use such that I can store different items? Maybe I have eating, sleeping. I want to store all of them in one variable name, because in order to save them in local storage, they need to be saved as a variable. So how do I go about that? What does JavaScript provide in terms of data type? Let's remember, let's crack our brains. Hello?
So I think we can save can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I think we can save them as an array.
Exactly, as an array list. If we're able to do it as an array list, it means that any value we enter, we have to move it to the array, enter, move it to the array. Then the array stores all of them. Because remember, array has the capacity of storing values like this. Here is an array I was using, let me say const array equal to, if it's an array, I can enter something like this. Eat, I can do sleep, and so forth. So I can enter different items like that if it was an array. So that is why we need to find a way to make sure these things are stored in an array instead of just storing it in a variable like this. Okay, so this is where this now comes in. So the first thing we are going to be doing is we have to now declare an array. This is our to-dos array. to-dos array. Let me just so it to be different from the other one. So this is our to-dos array. So it means that this variable we store there, this our to-do input dot value. Instead of just storing it in the value, let's now push it to an array. And how do we add items on array? Remember, we use push method that array, one of the methods that array provides for us. So you can do dot push. And what are we now pushing? We are now pushing this to do item. I can put this one directly to do this one. But let me, since I saved it in this variable, instead of just stopping there, let me now push it inside there to do item. So if I now push it there, which means it is now inside of this array. It's now inside of this array. Now, remember that if I've added it to the array, I need to now set it as the value that was displayed here. And if I need to set it as the value that was displayed there, if I do to do dot inner to do dot to do array, it will not work like that because I have an element in the array. Let me see if I now want to access, if I now want to use this what I have in my array. If I don't want to display it here, I now have to access it through to do array. And in order to get the first value in the to-dos array, you know how we use the index to access them. I enter the first one. So what it's simply saying is it is grabbing the very first item in my to-dos. The very first item in my to-dos. So we've done it this way. Let's see what happens. And we'll see why this is not also the best way to go about it. All right. So which means now in my local storage, where is my local storage? Where I declared my local storage here, I no longer have these to-do items. I now have to store this my to-dos array. Because if I store my to-do item, I'll still have one item at a time. But if I store my to-dos array, I will not have the whole array stored there. But let's go ahead and see what comes up. And okay, so I still have my jump because it is still stored there. So let me enter something. Let me enter. All right. So I have cook stored there. Then let me refresh now and see. I still have cook here. Let me see. Go to this. Still have cook here. So let me, okay, I console log this. Sorry, I wanted to see application. So I still have cooks here as my to-do. All right. So let me enter something else and see. Let me enter sleep. Okay. Refresh my page. Let me see. Let me see. Yeah, sleep here. Okay, sorry, let me see console.log. Console.log here. What do we have? We have to-dos array. All right, so let's see. Let me enter it out for now. I want to see my to-dos array. What we did. Okay, let's say jump, enter. Okay, let me see, move. Okay, my array is displaying correctly. Let's see, home. Okay, so I have my array displayed correctly. So I want to see. Now I'm trying to store it in my local storage. So local storage just set to dos, and I pick the to dos array and I store. So normally I'm supposed to have an array like this stored in my to do. But let's see what we get. So let's see. If I go to applications and try to access it. Okay, oh yeah. So I have it like this. You see, I have jump, move, home. So this is what I have in my local storage. It is stored like this, jump, move, home. But see what happens now. It is rather stored as, so if I go ahead and try to access it here, and okay, let me refresh. Let me refresh. Go to console. Okay, so I have jump, move, and home. Now, let me say if I want to check type of what this jump, move, and I now have the three of them displayed here, but they are not saved the way they are supposed to be saved. It has rather, it's more like it has been, let me see, type of, I'm just trying to see the type, what it is, the type of value type. So let's see what you get. So it is stored as a string. It is stored as a string. So they are all stored as strings. But that is not what I want. I want it to be stored as an array. Now there is something local storage does. You want it to be stored as an array. Why? Because I will later want to use it here. I will later want to use it to display whatever I've entered over here. So there is something local storage does. Local storage stores information and retrieves information using string method. So whatever you want to store in your local storage, you have to convert it in a format, in a kind of a string format, such that it will be stored properly in your local storage. Now, having gotten this to this array, you see what we're getting here is a string, which is our local storage. But you know, we cannot imagine we want to display it here because it's not an array. We can't manipulate it like an array. We store this as an array, and we're getting it back as a string. So we can't use it here in our display. Why? Because for now, it is a string. Because if I'm using this as an array, I need to loop over it and display all of them. Meanwhile, if I enter food here, I'm still getting one variable at a time. If I enter go. But if I refresh my page, it all still disappears. It's not displayed here, which is not what I want. I want a situation where when I display, refresh my page, whatever I've entered in my local storage, I get it here. And let me see. Please just, okay, let me see. Okay, see. So the items I stored there in my local storage, I need them to be displayed here when I refresh. So in order to work well with local storage works better when it works. The way local storage works is you have to convert the data you want to save in your local storage to a form of a string method, especially when it now involves an object. Should I? Okay. Especially when it now involves an object, which we are going to be doing shortly. But let's continue with what we're doing first of all. Okay, so what we simply did here was, for the sake of storing everything we entered in our local storage, we decided to now put it in an array so that we can store it and get everything we have entered, not overwriting what was there before. So as you can see now, we are getting food, we are getting the other one we entered, stored in our local storage. Let's, for now, we're not using the local storage for now. We're only storing values in the local storage. We've not started using it. We'll come to using it, because if we started using it, we'll be retrieving from there and displaying here. But we've not started using it for now. We're only displaying what we enter so far. So let's continue with that and take it gradually. All right. So in order to work with arrays, what's the best way to work with arrays? So what I'm simply doing here, for each time I enter, for each time I do this thing, for each time I say like this, what I'm simply doing is I'm going ahead, taking my values here. When I take them, when I submit my form, it will run this function once. If I submit again, it will run it again. 2. If I submit again, it will run, because I said append child, so it will be appending it as it's appending each item as the last child, which we may say, we've gotten what we want to do. It is okay. It is fine. We enter it as it will now enter again. Let's say fine. I get it displayed there. Okay, which we've succeeded in doing. But what we were saying we're going is that we want a situation whereby when we enter it like this, and we refresh our page, whatever we enter still stays, whatever we enter still gets displayed here. And then anything we're entering, we attach it to the end of what has been entered before. That is where we are going. So in order to get that done, we now have to do this. Okay. So after entering the value in our local storage, we now have to start to utilize the local storage to load it. Whenever we refresh our page, we want it to be loaded here, such that whatever we enter will be displayed here, not just when we click on this enter. All right. So in order to do that, I have to do this now. All right. So, okay. Okay, so we have an empty array here. Instead of having an empty array when we start, instead of having an empty array when we start. So let's find a way to retrieve the values on our local storage. And instead of having an empty array, it is now what we use as our array. What it is now used to form our array elements, such that we can now look into that array and pick values and display here whenever we start. Okay, let me just show you how it works. Right. So on this line, we've managed to get our local storage, which is our to-dos. Okay. So on our next line, we need to push these items that we've gotten into this our to-dos array. So if I go ahead and say to-dos dot to-dos array dot push, and now push these values here into my array. So I'm pushing stored to-dos. Okay. So if I console log stored to-dos on this line, I'm supposed to get whatever I retrieve from this local storage as my stored to-dos. So let's see how it works. So let me refresh it. Okay. Fresh. And these are the values I'm getting: good, it, and fine. So these values I'm getting here, I'm saying that I want them to be what will be displayed here whenever I refresh my page. So in order to get that done, I now need to, okay, let me see. In order to get that done, I now need to change this my content here and load from, okay, in order to get that done, I now need to remove this from here and put it outside. Okay, let me see. Just a sec. Okay, so what we are trying to do is, this action only takes place when we click, but these are not this. We don't want all this to take. We don't want this to take place when we click. We rather want it to take place when we load. So when we click, the only thing we'll now be doing inside of this function is just to update our array. So I can safely cut this out. I can safely cut this out. Safely cut this out. Let me cut this whole thing out. Okay, and now drop it here. Can drop it anywhere. Can drop it up here. Okay. So let's look at it again. Did I? Okay, sorry. I caught the sets. Not supposed to be. Okay. So initially, it's when we click that these things happen. But in order to achieve something, when I said no, we don't want it to happen when we click. When we load our page, we want all this to take place. So when I load my page, what it will simply do is it will store this value in local storage to push it to this array. Once it pushes it to the array, then on this line, it will form this div, don't do this, only this. So my what we display there will be part of this element in my array. So let me go ahead and practicalize it. So if I refresh, see, I have good, it's fine. But this time around, it's taking all of them as a string. Why? Because of the way I saved it in my local storage. Can you see what happens here? So once I refresh my page, it will retrieve all the values I have in my local storage, which is what we did here, push it to my array, and it will now display. So it's taking these three values as the first element of the array. It is not recognizing it as a proper, what is it called? As a proper array that it needs to be. Because it needs to, these things are different values, 1, 2, 3. Is that making sense? Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
It's making sense.
Okay. So what we simply did was, this our function, the job of this our function will now be to pick the value in our, this thing, updates our to-do item. Once we updated our to-do item, we also store it in the local storage. The reason why the reason why we are storing it in local storage is such that whenever we refresh, we update this, store it in local storage, and I can remove this guy. Remove this guy. Let me just clean this up. And this, what this last one does is just to empty, whenever you enter a value, you have to empty the value here. make it 0 again once you submit your form. All right. So when I refresh my page, it now loads directly from the local storage. So I now have the things I entered before. So if I now enter something else, it's supposed to now be added to this one I entered. So let's see. Okay. So submit it to local storage, refresh the form. Okay. I think, let me see. Okay, so it's not displayed here. Okay, so we are not giving it an instruction to add it to it. That is where we are not giving it that instruction. We are only telling it to add it to local storage. So when we refresh, comes up here as one of the things added to local storage, right? So we need to do it in such a way that whenever we submit this form, we save this and submit this form, it also needs to be able to add to what we had before in our local storage. All right, so let's work that out. Like say I have this, I'm pushing it to the item, I'm saving it in local storage. I remove this. So I'm going back to this. Okay, so if I remove this port, let me see. I say go. Okay, so it's working now. You see, I removed the default. You know, I told you what form does. It submits. So immediately you submit the form, it refreshes your browser. Once it refreshes your browser loads again. So it picks the value from local storage and tries to display it. But we haven't done something. Our local storage is displaying everything as a string, which is what we are yet to do. So yeah, let me see. Try this one again. Fine. Here I have fine, it has changed immediately. But this is not what we want. But at least we've gotten the fact that our form can now submit. You now understand why I had to remove this default, because I want my form to submit, update my local storage. See what happens at the same time. My forms, when I click submit, enter, or that add, my form submits it to local storage, refreshes the browser. Now, once it refreshes the browser, it starts running from the beginning. This process starts again, and the browser now accessing local storage, picks the values in local storage, and now does this thing again. So it happens like that. The process continues like that. I hope you are not lost. So the next assignment for us now is to make sure, instead of bringing this thing out as a string, we need it to come out in an array format such that we can now display each of them instead of displaying all of them as the first array index. It's rather we want to display each of them as individual array indexes. All right. So up to this point, do we have a question? Do you have any questions? Let me answer. If you understand it to this point, then I'm very let me hear from you. Is it clear to this point? Hello?
So it's clear from my end.
Okay.
Okay, for me, my network has been very terrible today. So I'm just hoping that when the video is ready, I would go through it again. I believe I'll understand it.
Okay. But you understand these are form elements. You know, before now, I don't know if you knew when we're saying all these other codes we are written in a form inside here, inside this function. I will now have to move it to this part. You understand why we move it?
Which of the codes? The form codes.
This we called our event listener on our form elements.
Okay.
Our form elements. Other these codes were inside. But we had to remove them and put them outside. Why? Because once content here to local storage. Whenever the first code is that is a JavaScript code. It takes code by code. So run this one first. What does this say? This one create an array. This one goes to the local storage. Each whatever was stored there pushes them to the array. Once they are pushed to the array, the next one creates a div. Creates a div. Create another this grant div. Okay, this is the grant. So if I go ahead and inspect this, you see these divs that were created. Ready? So see this div. Now see this div here. This first div is this first div that was created. The next div, where we call this, we give it a class of to-do. Next div is this one. Now inside this next div, that is where we have our P elements, which is this P element. So what it does when the browser loots, create an array, move on to local storage, picks any item stored in local storage, push those items to the array that was created. After pushing them, you create the grandparent div, then you create the parent div, then you create the P elements and append your and now give it an inner text, the P element and inner text. And the inner text we want to give it is the content is whatever we enter there that we pick up. Then you append it, and that's all. Append it to the main container. Now, what this form does is whenever this form submits, what we are instructing now is that collect this value that was entered in, push it to this our array, and also store the same value in local storage and empty that our input. You see this line 42. If I don't enter line 42, see what happens. Let me show you what happens. If there is no line 42, if I enter this, see, I've submitted my form. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, line 32 might no longer apply because we've removed prevent default. Let me see, prevent. So let me say I had prevent default before. If this line 32 was not there now, see what will happen. First of all, the code it will not submit to the back end. Let me say get something. It will not submit. And you see, after entering it, I have this get something still here. So what this line 42 do is to empty it your input field. So you are taking the value back to an empty string. So it will empty it for you. So if I go ahead and refresh and say, although it has added, see it added the get something, because when I refreshed, it came back here. So if I go ahead and say stop, see, it's now empty because of this line. So, and if I also remove this, what this simply will do is, I've removed initially I was preventing default behavior of form elements, but now I have removed whatever was preventing them. So the default behavior of form elements is to always submit your form. And once a form is submitted, your browser will refresh. So when I remove the default behavior, what it now does is that it will collect the content I created here. It will collect whatever I entered here, which is this to do input.value. It will push it to the array I formed up there, the first thing I formed up there. Also store the same thing in local storage, empty the content of that input field, and it will now send it. It will now send it as if it's submitting the form. And we are submitting it to, for now, we're submitting it to local storage. So it will send it, refresh your browser. So it will refresh your browser, and you now get, that is when you see that it will not, once your browser is refreshed, the whole process starts running again. This one is only triggered when you submit form. Why this one is triggered anytime your browser refreshes. So if I refresh, I get that talk there. So, and if I do have, I get it immediately displayed because my browser has refreshed and is fetching from the local storage. So is it clear to this point? Because our next assignment now will now be, these things are supposed to be individual array elements, but are appearing as one array element. So that is what we need to solve now. I will need to fix that. So if everything we did up to today is well understood, I will stop here today and we'll continue next week how we bring this. So once we're able to do that, we'll say, okay, we are over 60% done with our to-do ask. What will now be remaining is how to now put some CSS styling and also put some codes that will help us check whether some things are empty and stuff, and also try to rewrite this our code to appear better. That's why I haven't deleted this yet. I started with this and that's okay. Let me suspend it first and go ahead and do this so that we'll all be on the same page. All right, so I can safely, I was just using this to debug the code, remove all these my console logs. This one will just run so I will see what we're entering here. So having said that, if you have a question, please go ahead and ask. If not, I would like us to end there today. and we'll continue from next week.